Welcome! It's a great time to be alive and it's a great time to be a miner. Today we're going to do a quick Noob's mining rig build from start clear up to mining. We're going to set it up in Windows. We're going to use Nicehash. We're just going to use a single GPU for purposes of demonstration. We're going to try to keep this nice and abbreviated and try not to get too technical. If you need to get your hands on one of the new 30 series graphics cards or one of the new 6000 AMD series cards, make sure to check out my buying guide up here. Without further ado, let's spin that intro. Alright, so let's dive into our quick Noob's building guide for a brand new mining rig. We're going to start from the beginning, we're going to bring it all the way up, and we're just going to get this thing running. It's going to be on Windows. And we're gonna go ahead and display our full parts list. All right, real quick, the mining rig parts list. You need a mining rig frame, does not have to be purchased, you can build one. You need fans, lots of fans, keep the GPUs cool. You need a motherboard. It doesn't have to be fancy, but if you have more PCIe, at least X1 slots, then you can add more graphics cards. You need a CPU with a cooler. CPU can be cheap. Many of us miners use Intel Celeron G3900s, 3930s, or right in there in that same series. RAM, you don't need a lot. You can use 4. I prefer 8 gigabytes, and I use slower memory that's only 2400 megahertz. Cheaper, you don't have to waste a lot of money. Power supply, you need at least one ATX standard power supply to power your rig. You can possibly use a second ATX or a server power supply depending on your needs. You need a solid state drive or a USB drive. You need a power button. These only cost about $2 to buy the cheap power buttons that hook onto the motherboard. Please do not use a screwdriver to jumper your motherboard. It is not good for it. You need risers. Of course you need graphics cards. That is the brain of mining. You need just a cheap keyboard and mouse and monitor for initial setup. Once you're set up, you really don't need these if you're able to remote access your computer. Now, back to the build. Here is what we are going to be installing today. Our motherboard is going to be the Gigabyte H110 D3A. This is one of the most tried and true mining motherboards that they have on the market. These things have been so reliable throughout the years, very widely accepted, very widely owned, as well as the ASRock H110 mining motherboard. That thing has double the slots. This is only a 6-slot motherboard. It does have mining mode in the BIOS and a quick, easy setup. So we're going to use a G3930 Intel Celeron cheapo processor, because that's all you need. We're going to use 8 gigabytes of just DDR4, 2400 megabytes. Not matching, does not matter. We're going to use a Silicon Power 120 gigabyte SSD. These things are great value buys and pretty reliable little tanks. We are going to use version 8 GPU risers. I'm only going to use one for the moment. We're just going to set up one GPU to get this thing up and running. A copy of Windows 10 on a thumb drive. Of course, our 3060 Ti Founders Edition, not yet opened. And here is our 850 bronze EVGA power supply. We just have a cheapo mining frame. Our CPU fan is the stock cooler that comes with the G3930. We have 4 120 millimeter fans hooked on the back. And we've already got this put into our mining frame. So first things first, you put together your mining rig frame. You will then put in your standoffs. This one's a little bit dusty. It could have been cleaned a little better, but that's okay. So you're going to put in your standoffs under your motherboard. You're going to secure your motherboard to your frame. Second part, you will install your fans. This one only holds 4 fans. They're a bit dusty. That's okay. It's going back into my garage. Then you want to secure your ATX power supply to your frame. I've got an 850 EVGA bronze. We're gonna hook it up, your CPU power rather, right there. You're gonna hook up your 24 pin. Your power supply is now powered to your motherboard. Do not plug in your power supply until you are ready to boot for the first time. Your CPU, my CPU is already socketed, it's installed, it's got the fan sitting on there, easy peasy. Got the fan hooked to the motherboard. We have a generic Dell power switch, is all I have on here because you don't need a fancy power switch. Please don't use a screwdriver to jumper the pins. Buy a $2 switch and do it the right way. This one was free, I'm using a free one. You could go over the top and buy a $8 button. You don't need the $8 button. You can buy a $2 push button switch. So the next piece we need to do, we need to put in some RAM. We're gonna put in 2 sticks of DDR4 2400 megahertz. All right, bam, we got 8 gigabytes of RAM slotted in. Just make sure you put them in and push till they click. You cannot get them backwards because of the slot cut in. Make sure they're seated properly. SSD is mounted on the side of the frame. It's an easy mount, has 2 holes through the frame and go right directly into the SSD. The SATA cable is plugged in for the data and into the motherboard, and the power is running off of a SATA, off of a separate pigtail to the power supply. So there we have the main power supply, the motherboard, the CPU, the RAM, the power button, and the SSD, and the fans are already installed. So the only thing that's left to get this build ready to install Windows and get it booting up is to put a graphics card in here. We need a riser, and then we need to put our brand new GPU up on there and get it running. All right, let's get our riser. I use a version 008S. I prefer it. It has good power delivery. They've been very reliable. You can use your 6-pin, your SATA, or your Molex, but you really should use the 6-pin whenever possible. So now this will simply go onto the cross member. This will go and plug into our PCIe slot. And we'll route it just like so. Let's pull it back and make it out of the way. Kind of route that where it's not in the way of anything. We'll need to provide power both to the riser and the GPU, obviously. So the only thing left on this as far as structural build is all we have to do is get the graphics card on there, put it in our PCIe slot, power the riser, the graphics card. Inspired by gamers, built by Nvidia, loved by miners, 3060 Ti founders. Gonna have everyone installed. Very heavy, metal, very dense. Let's go ahead and shift it a bit. Power cable may be a problem later. Let's move those first. Okay. Alright, so let's put this in the flame. Two flames, kind of screws are pinned in. Nice to make sure we are Nvidia ridiculous adapter. Makes no sense going from their 12 pin proprietary to an 8 pin. Click. It's gonna be a pain on the wiring, so flex it all up. That's okay. That is what it is. So here we have our 8-pin and a 6-pin. We're just going to hook both of these, one to the riser, one to the GPU for this instance. For now, we're just going to use the single power supply, but then eventually when I build these out with the rest of the cards, I'm going to use my server power supply and my breakout board And then we'll power probably the risers all off the breakout board. Actually, all the GPU power and probably the risers. So. We'll clean those up later, and there is a little hole on these back of these riser boards that you can easily zip tie to, which is kind of convenient. Let's put the camera on that. So you can zip tie off of this back hole here on these risers and then pull your wires in tight so you get them nice and clean and you don't have wires going every which way. So really, that is it. Functionally, this thing is completely built out and it's ready to install Windows, install Nicehash, and get this thing running. We're going to use the integrated graphics on the Celeron processor to use through the motherboard, and you don't want to use the graphics off the graphics card itself because that just affects your hash rate. Everything's set up and ready to go. Let's get installing. First, just jump over and you download Windows from this main Windows Microsoft site for free. You install for free, and then later you can purchase a key. I'll include some links for cheap keys. TechYes has a video that you can get like a $12 Windows Reg key if you want to register. You can also use Hive OS on a thumb drive if you would prefer to run off of a Linux-based. All right, so this thing is ready to boot. Everything's hooked up, all the connections are checked, everything is in line, everything is plugged up. We've got our VGA going out to our old monitor. We've got our keyboard and mouse plugged in. SSD is blank and hooked up and ready to go. Let's go ahead and hit power and see what we get. And we have power. Fans are spinning. 3060 Ti fans are spinning. Oh, we got display out. Straight to BIOS because there is no operating system on this. Now that we have posts, we're in the MOBO. We're going to go ahead and reboot to our thumb drive, which has a copy of Windows 10. We're gonna run through the basic Windows 10 installation. We're gonna leave the network core cable unplugged so as not to get any kind of updates or anything like that yet. And we're gonna go ahead and install Windows. We'll be back after we are installed. Real quick, I've already got it set up. I've got Windows installing from USB. It asks for a key. I hit I do not have one and continue installation. I set up a new partition and started the installation, and now we're just waiting for Windows to get through the full installation. All right, we're up to Windows. Just real quick, ran through the basic setup. We did the single layout. We used just a setup username, but we would set no password. That way it would easily log back in if we needed to. And then next, I already have the newest Nvidia drivers already installed onto a nice USB. I'll go ahead and throw this in there and update my drivers for my graphics cards for the new 30 series. And then we're gonna move on from there. All right, quick update. I am still installing the newer version of Windows 10 because I used a very old thumb drive copy I had, and you need to update Windows far enough to where it can use the new 30 series drivers. Since that time is going on, I went ahead and installed Chrome. I went ahead and installed a new copy of MSI Afterburner. I installed a brand new copy of GPU-Z. I have my drivers ready to install. I set my date and time within Windows. Now we just gotta wait for this Windows update. Once Windows is completely updated and we get all the security patches in, then we will install the new Nvidia drivers. I'm using 460.89. There's probably a newer version, but this is one that I downloaded about 3 weeks ago and has been working flawlessly on my dual 3060 Ti setup. So that's what we're gonna run with. Next, we downloaded Nicehash. We Googled download Nicehash. We went to the download center, downloaded the newest zip package. Let's go show in folder. There is my download folder. Let's go ahead and extract all. There it is. So now let's go to Windows Defender and create an exclusion. Down in the bottom right corner, we click the little arrow. We're going to right click the Defender icon, open. We're going to go to virus and threat protection. Virus and threat protection settings. We're going to go down to exclusions. Add an exclusion. We're gonna add a folder. We wanna exclude Nicehash so that the Windows doesn't think that whatever minor application we're running is a virus. So we're gonna select that, hit select folder. Yes, we want to allow this. While it's still installing updates, just a quick item, I like to use Google Chrome Remote to remote between my Windows devices since I have multiple rigs running on Windows. This makes it so that from my main work desktop, I can get to all of my mining rigs and do whatever I need to. It's really easy to install, Google Chrome Remote Desktop, and that's what I'm using for that. One other item in Windows, we want to set the virtual memory. And basically a rule of thumb I've been taught over the years, I've learned to use as many gigabytes in virtual memory as I am using on the physical GPUs themselves. To do this, go to your settings, type performance, performance. We want to adjust the appearance and performance of Windows. From this menu, hit the advanced tab. We are changing our virtual memory paging system. Change. Uncheck automatic, because we're manually setting it. We want to use a custom size. Each gigabyte is actually 1024 megabytes. If you were setting up 8 gigabyte, you would use 8 times 1024 megabytes. You would use 8192. And we're gonna put that as our initial 8192, and we'll use that as our maximum as well, 8192. I'm only setting this up with one card. Once I add the others, I'll go ahead and expand this virtual memory. Some of the more memory intensive algorithms can need this extra virtual paging to allocate properly. We'll set, we'll hit OK, and it's going to tell us we have to restart for this to take effect. We'll wait till some of our updates are in, we'll restart, and that will take effect as well. All right, so what have we accomplished? We went ahead and updated Windows thoroughly. That took forever because I used an old version off of a thumb drive. I highly advise download a current version, then you won't have to do all those updates. I then was able to install a new set of Nvidia drivers that will coincide with the 30 series graphics card. I went ahead and downloaded and installed Nicehash. I have downloaded and installed MSI Afterburner to set my overclocks. I've turned off my updates. I went ahead and set up Google Chrome, and I set up my Chrome remote so that I can remote to this computer from my phone or from the other PC, my work desktop, or from any of the other rigs I have, since they're all running on Windows. Windows is a lot more maintenance, but a lot easier for especially a new noob setup where you're just trying to get it up and running before you dive into Hive or any other alternative. Same with Nicehash. Easiest way to get started is Nicehash, because you don't have to learn how to do your bat files or any specific mining pools to deal with. You literally install it, then you set your overclocks, you benchmark the card, and you get it running. It will mine. All right, so let's look at our overclocks real quick. MSI Afterburner. This is just the single 3060 Ti currently. I haven't really set them perfectly. I know that at a minimum, I want to go 70%. I could actually go lower to 65%, I am sure. Core clock, everybody says you want to go negative. You want, especially on a mining rig. If you're using a single card in your desktop, you might not want to crank this backwards because it could affect your performance on your desktop computer while you're still using it. Memory, let's crank it clear up to 1200. Let's set that as our start off point for our overclock. Whenever you're setting overclocks, make sure you do not click the start up Windows button until you are confident that you have a good stable overclock. Setting this could cause you some headaches. If you accidentally set it way too high, you crash out, then it's going to load these as soon as it loads Windows, and it may crash out again, and then you have a much bigger problem on your hands. Do not click this button until you are confident. Other thing, in MSI Afterburner, either set a static fan speed, 60%, 70%, or I like to set a custom fan curve. I go into the settings, hit the gear icon, then we hit the fan tab. I will set a custom fan curve that says below 30C, no fan. And then I will say as soon as it hits 30C, we want to be 35%-ish on the fan speed, and then I will crank it up across a grid. When it hits 70C, I want it to be at 85%, and then when I'm at 75C, I want 100% because I don't want my card ever going above 75C. I've already installed Nicehash. You download the zip file from the download section of Nicehash. It will be a zip. You right click it, you extract all. You will get a Nicehash folder. You go to your Nicehash miner exe, double click that, let it run through. It will ask you to log in. If you have your login set up, go ahead and log in. If you don't, you have to set yourself up an account with Nicehash. That way you can get your wallet and you can get your payouts wherever you need them to go later. And you double click to launch. It starts out in a light mode, and the light mode is barely visible and blends in terribly. So the first thing you do after it goes through, it will work on installing all the miners right off the gate before you do anything. Then you want to go into your settings. Once you are in your settings, you want to set up your miner name, change your miner name. It should already pull in your wallet address that's with Nicehash. You want to select your service location. There is a US location on here. That's what I'm using, San Jose. This is a big one. You want to select dark theme. The light theme is unbearably bright and hard to navigate. I personally like to turn off auto update the miner and auto update the plugins. If I want to update the miner plugins, I would do it manually. I would go over to my plugins tab and I would select them and I would update them. Then I went into my benchmark right here. I select my card drop down. These are the available algorithms and miners that are currently installed that I can use with this specific card. I went ahead and unchecked everything except my Phoenix Dagger hash. And then I hit start benchmark. What it'll do in the background, you won't see a pop-up. It will just do a quick benchmark and get you a base number. And what these numbers are used for is if you have multiple algorithms and they're all benchmarked, it's going to compare your numbers to see which is the most profitable according to Nicehash for you at the current time, and it will algo switch based on profitability. In the real world, right now, as it stands, profitability is Dagger hash ETH. So that's what you're going to be doing. You could select a different one, say NB miner. You could use law miner to do ETH. They can do the same algorithm. We hop back over to the dashboard and we just hit start. After it's benchmarked, it will start. Let's see what our 3060 Ti founders wants to do. Oh, now that is beautiful, isn't it? 61 mega hash, and we have some valid shares already, so we know it's working perfectly. How much does a 3060 Ti make as of the date of 1/19/2021? On ETH hash doing 61 mega hash, we are making $4.39 a day before electricity. That is a pretty quick ROI time if all things stay equal. If you enjoyed this build video today, if you need more detailed instruction, check out Hashraptor's in-depth build video above. If you have any questions or concerns, or you like further guidance, make sure to join Hashraptor's Discord and Misfit Mining Discord. There's plenty of seasoned veterans in there willing to help you out and get you up in mining and get you earning that crypto. If you like this video, you know what to do. Smash that like button and subscribe for future content. Thanks for coming along and enjoy the ride.